by UC Louvain and Gacy's Leibniz Institute for the Social Sciences. I'm Taimur Khan, senior researcher at Gacy's Leibniz Institute for the Social Sciences, part of the conference committee. Along with me, we have Clemence, Florica, and Benoit. And on behalf of the conference committee and the extended MethodsNET family, I wish you very exciting sessions throughout the 3 days of the conference. It has already started in the morning. We had some trainings, and I believe you may have already attended some of the trainings. So with this, the conference is open, and I hope this opportunity or platform that MethodsNet provide to all the method enthusiasts to benefit from it, have discussions, and share exciting ideas with one another, and use this platform for fostering future collaboration. So thank you very much.
So hello all. So what we'll do next during this plenary session is I will talk a bit more about the event, and especially what MethodsNet is developing currently, what we're developing now, what we'll be developing in the close future between now and the next conference. And after this, we will have an exciting roundtable around a very timely topic, which you have seen on the program. But okay, first things first. So first, we would like to thank our proud sponsors of the event. There's a long list, but I should explain who these persons or groups are. My university, UC Louvain, is supporting as an institution this event, both the social science and humanities sector, SSH, the Prorector for Research, and also the Council for International Affairs. So GESIS is also supporting as a sponsor, not only scientifically, but also supporting financially. And we're very happy to have this joint venture with GESIS, who is a major player around social science data and services across Europe. Then we have a series of institutes of UC Louvain. UC Louvain is an institution which has made the choice roughly 20 years ago to create separate institutes to manage research, separate from faculties and schools managing teaching. ISPOL is a political science institute. The IRSS is the Institute for Health and Society. The IACOS Institute gathers multiple disciplines across sociology, anthropology, education science, population science, etc. The LORIM Institute is Louvain Research Institute in Management, so management research. My own center, the CESPOL Research Center, around comparative politics. And we have two first mover sponsors, Edward Elliott, the publisher, who you can meet at the booth in the welcome space, as well as the Verbis software company that develops multiple tools, in particular the Max QDA software, for which there is also a training session, a demo session later at the conference, and you're very welcome. So many thanks to those sponsors who made this event possible. Let me tell you a few things about MethodsNet. That was launched only 4 years ago as a let's say a very basic group, just not so formalized, and that only became a membership-based association 1 year ago, a year and a half ago. So we are very young. What is our DNA? Our DNA is to offer a range of services, let's say, and perform a mission across the human sciences, broadly defined, so social sciences and multiple disciplines around them, having to do with human beings. And so first, we ambition to provide global access to top research methods via training, in particular, to junior researchers and practitioners. We also ambition to be a platform to facilitate, as we're doing here at the conference, facilitate dialogues across research methods developers around innovation fronts. And importantly, and last but not least, we want to foster pluralism in dialogue across methodologies and epistemologies, which is also embodied at the conference. So our values are those of pluralism, dialogue, collegiality, of course, equitable access as much as can be. We know that there are some barriers to access training for multiple reasons, travel, funding, etc., etc. And the not-for-profit orientation. We will keep these values as long as MethodsNET exists. So, long story cut short, we ambition to be a double global network, both of expert developers and teachers and pedagogues of methods, and users and learners, both within academia and outside. So, as an association, that's only a year and a half ago, we decided to make that jump. We are developing, let's say, further via a membership structure. As you may know, most of you in the room are members already. And there's 4 categories of members. You can join us in a flexible manner, depending on your current position and interest. We also have a number of institutional partners, not only for the events, but also ad hoc partners. We are developing the association, which of course requires some staffing and some infrastructure. And in particular, we're developing gradually some digital services and interface, our website and beyond. Regarding events, we already have conducted 4 summer schools. Actually, the 4th was this year. So the 5th one, it is a mistake in the slide, the 5th edition will be in Vienna at the CEU, by the Central European University in Vienna from late June to mid-July 2026. We will offer certainly more than 30 courses, including some online courses in diverse formats. And we're offering this in a very complementary way with another event, a partner event we are proud to endorse, which is the COMEX, the Constance Method Excellence workshops taking place in Constance in the springtime next year. And it's also complementary to the offer of Gezi Summer School, which is also very, very excellent research training event. It takes place especially in Cologne, right? In Cologne, in Germany, in different places, locations. We will hold a 3rd yearly conference next year, and that's the date is still to be confirmed. It will be still in Louvain-la-Neuve, and then we'll move to another location. If you're interested to host a 4th conference, 2027, please get in touch with us. And we're thinking about other events, but that will come a bit later. We'll let you know as soon as we have them ready. Last but not least, we are developing the MethodsNET communities. We just had a meeting right now here in Louvain-la-Neuve with the co-conveners of these communities. So what is the concept? These are member-driven digital platforms for exchange and for mutual learning, for troubleshooting. We are currently in the process of launching 6 communities, and you see the list on the slide. The 4 first ones let's say, cover large methods spaces. But of course, within these spaces that are very broad already, there can be sub-conversations and subgroups very easily. And the 2 latter ones are more transversal. And so within the next few months, you will see quite a lot happening around these communities. You will be informed. You'll be able to join some short sessions, some conversation flows, some troubleshooting sessions, etc., by these communities. And this will be open to MethodsNET members, at least for the key resources, and potentially there'll be also something will be open more globally. But it is developed as a membership service for MethodsNET members, both experts and users. So you can easily access these via your membership login. All right. So how can you connect with us if you're not connected yet? Of course, you can join as member. We try to have a very accessible fee policy. You can be involved in the communities, not only as a consumer, but also as a producer of information. You can join our events. simply as a participant, but also potentially you can join and steer some sessions at our events or teach some courses. And if you want to get more involved towards the core team, we're very open. Just get in touch with us. And if you are representing an institution and you want to partner up with us, we have a flexible approach. You can also approach us and we can discuss, one-to-one. And also, if you have some money to spend, we're looking for sponsors, as always, as all associations. But more seriously, we will have here on the ground in Louvain-la-Neuve a meeting. It's in the program about partnership. If you want to, it's a formal meeting, but you can also grab us in the corridors and discuss potential partnering up. We can offer services such as promotion of your activities or potentially joint endorsement of a program, if it meets our mission. We're really a facilitator for your activities in your institutions. Okay, Clémence, you wanted to present this, yes? A few tips and tricks about how to do at the conference. You want to come here, please?
So yes, just some basics for you to know. So always refer to the online program for the latest updates. So we might have last minute changes in rooms and things like that. So the online version is always the most accurate if you're a little bit lost. There's also a couple of maps of the two main buildings in the online program in a separate sheet. So you can always refer to that. We have 4 tracks that we designed that are kind of consistent, but you can also compose your own program and pick and choose what sessions and trainings appeal to you specifically. So feel free to go nuts. And then we also have some more sort of special sessions that aren't panel sessions. We have the MethodsNET communities sessions where the communities can meet. So the communities that Benoit just mentioned. So that's tomorrow at 2:30. We have this Meet the Expert speed dating session, which is 90 minutes on Friday morning. And we have business meetings happening here and there. So all of that is, again, in the program. And of course, we have informal networking slots, coffee breaks. There's the conference dinner happening tonight. So all the information, again, is in the program. And there's also a guided walking tour of Louvain-la-Neuve, which will start in the Leclerc Hall in the other building at 6 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. So that's it. If you ever get a bit lost, you can always grab one of us and ask us where to go. And yeah, we would appreciate if you could fill out the evaluation survey after the conference is done. We'll circulate that by email. And I think that's it. Any questions? Yeah, you can always grab one of us. Enjoy the conference.
Taimo, that's for you now.
Okay, so this year we also plan to publish the conference proceedings, and that would be with the author's consent. So if you are willing to have your paper or even your session report as part of the conference proceedings, we have already sent out the emails about it. All the proceedings will be published on Zenodo, and it will be under open access CC BY 4.0 license. So everyone will have open access to it, and all research papers will have their unique DOIs. So if you are interested in having your paper being part of the proceedings, we'll have a follow-up email after the conference, maybe a week after, and we'll keep in touch with you to have it published before the end of the year. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So at this stage, but I think we will need to we will not be recorded because we're supposed to have some awards to give right now. But I will at least announce them right now, and then we will take some nice pictures outside of the session. So at the 2024 conference, the first conference, we made a call for 2 awards, a Best Paper Award and a Best Early Career Paper Award. We will also, you will receive information right after the conference. We'll also have a selection procedure for best paper awards for this conference. Again, a best paper and an early career best paper award. You'll see the regulations, and we will, in particular, ask the panel chairs if they would want to nominate some candidate papers. Okay, all right, and you will see all the regulations. So I'm proud to announce that from last year's conference, the first conference, the best paper award goes to our colleagues Eva Thoman from University of Constance and Elena Oana from the European University Institute, with a paper titled Scope Statements in Empirical Social Research, in which they make quite a deep development on how to conceptualize and to empirically establish the scope statement and scope conditions, contextual conditions. And this applies to different methodologies. It's cross methods. Congratulations. Eva is there. Congratulations, but we are waiting for the awards. Representing the team. Yes, very first award winner. Congrats. The best runner-up paper award is by Hilde van Bedenbos from the University of Leiden. That paper is titled Interpretivist Process Tracing in Foreign Policy Making Space for Agency and Contingency. So our colleague Hilde bridges in a way, in an original manner, process tracing, which has been initially developed outside of the interpretivist approach, and she bridges this with this very lively tradition in a pretty original manner. So she sets like a new agenda as well. And the best early career paper award goes to Eduardo Riotamaki and Levente Lidvai. Eduardo is affiliated to a number of German institutions. I forgot which one is from Giga Hamburg, right? And then two other universities. And Levente Lidvai at the Hungarian Academy of Sciences in Hungary, logically. And so the early career colleague is the first author, not our friend Levi, who is more senior. The rule is that the first author should be early career. And the paper is titled Chrono Sampling, Generative AI-Enabled Time Machine for Public Opinion Data Collection. Eduardo, in particular with Levin for the colleagues, is developing a whole agenda on how to exploit AI in a pretty sharp way to generate, let's say, data from past contexts, if I may summarize in a very long story short. And it's via multiple procedures, that enable them to, how should I say, to model and to control the effect of AI on such constructed data sets. Voila. So a lot of sharp stuff, and we look forward to delivering the awards of this year's conference next year in 2026 in Louvain-la-Neuve. Okie dokie. Now we will move. We have, how much time do we have left? Yes, we have 50 minutes or so. And we have a pretty, how should I say, timely topic ahead of us with 3 fellow colleagues with different profiles, from different places, different expertise. And we have asked these friends and colleagues to give us their thoughts on the role that research methods, methodologies, methodologists could play in addressing a major challenge that we face globally, and including in some locations like here, Belgium and Europe and North America, where we used to believe that there was some sort of public trust or trust of the public in research and science. At least that was like an assumption we had for a long time. And apparently, research and science are increasingly mistrusted. Not only social sciences, of course, it's a much broader picture. And so we thought that it would be very interesting to take it from the methods angle, because as we very frequently say in our methods courses, science is composed of three elements: theories or models or ideas, right? Some empirical evidence or data, and some methodologies. So methods are very important cornerstones of any science. And so can we do anything to address this growing and in a way concerning mistrust vis-a-vis research and science? And how does it also interrogate potentially our social role as researchers? So I first give the floor to Timothy, and before I say so, let's do the following. Each one of you will have like 10-ish minutes, right? So that we have then ample space for discussion. And some of you have some slides, more or less short or pretty long, but please stick to like 10-ish minutes so that we have time for an exchange with the friendly audience. So Tim, this is you have the word.
All right, thank you very much. I want to spend a few minutes talking about mixed methods research. And that's my background. I'm a methodologist focused on mixed methods. To tell you a little bit of what that is, I think of mixed methods as a study that involves collecting and analyzing qualitative and quantitative data and integrates the two in a study or a very closely connected series of studies. And the integration is really what distinguishes mixed methods from other sorts of research designs. So in my opinion, mixed methods is a way to maybe blend the best of both worlds. We talk about leveraging the strengths of multiple methods. I don't claim that it's a panacea necessarily. Certainly there are research that does not call for a mixed methods approach, or we have to think about the resources and time involved in mixed methods and whether that yields enough value in order to really make it worth it. Having said that, I do believe that many research questions that I try to address applying social sciences would be better from a mixed methods approach. So in terms of leveraging the best, and I think this is where mixed methods may have a particular role in countering some mistrust that we see with science, we can blend the value of looking at trends. We can blend the value of looking at generalizability or being able to generalize to a certain group. And then in addition to that, we can have obviously qualitative nuance. So understand in more depth, in more complexity, and really hear the voices of individuals. I arrived at mixed methods quite some time ago as I was conducting program evaluation, mainly around human services programs, behavioral health services, and educational programs. And I was from a purely quantitative background at the time, and I was conducting, what I would consider fairly sophisticated analyses of programs using multi-level modeling and propensity score matching because we couldn't necessarily control for conditions and that sort of thing. Because the programs that I was evaluating in the US, because they were funded by the government, essentially, we had certain reporting requirements we had to meet. And granted, the environment has changed a little bit in the past year, but I think some of this is, certainly true today. So I would produce these reports and then tune into a legislative session where they were looking at the results of my evaluation. At one point, I decided that I would put in some quotes from family members. And I was astounded at the time because the policymakers ignored everything that I did quantitatively. That's maybe an exaggeration. I wouldn't say they ignored it, but they really zeroed in on the quotes. For whatever reason, that is what spoke to these individuals. I think they could really relate to their constituents, people they were working with. That honestly led me to mixed methods research, where I became interested in the value of qualitative methods and then integrating the two and bringing the two together. I think a lot of that is still true today when we think about the potential of using more than one method to more completely understand a research problem. There is a little bit of empirical evidence to support this as well. There are a few studies that have been done appraising mixed methods research and the value added of mixed methods research. One of my favorites is by a colleague, Courtney McKim, and she did an empirical evaluation of mixed methods written reports, really, compared to more of a mono-method study. And in this, she found there was evidence that there was value added from a mixed methods approach. So individuals reading a mixed methods passage tended to perceive it as more valuable than those who looked at a solely qualitative or quantitative passage. They perceived mixed method studies as presenting more evidence for the findings than either approach alone, and more rich interpretations of the results. And ultimately, they had an increased confidence in the findings of mixed methods research. So granted, this won't appeal to everyone. Obviously, there was a distribution here, as there is in everything. But if we think about moving the needle a little bit more towards more trust for science, it might be a way to think about doing so. Because again, we can leverage the strengths of both, looking at larger trends, but then also pulling out individual experiences and perspectives. Sometimes when reading qualitative reports, for instance, it could be a little bit easier for someone to see themselves represented. They might be able to relate a little bit more to the results. So I'd ask you to consider mixed methods as one potential approach to countering some of that mistrust. Of course, this can only be done with transparency. So there's, of course, another side to this. And I think this is a weakness of mixed methods research and mixed methods researchers right now. For one, we do have I would say, a general lack of reporting standards as compared to other methods. And I think that has made it difficult. Studies that have tried to appraise the quality of mixed methods research have identified problems throughout. Many of those problems are related to the description of the methods themselves and the detail of the methods. I have, in my career, looked at hundreds, probably thousands of manuscripts, certainly hundreds of proposals for a thesis or a dissertation or grant applications. In all of that time, I don't think I have ever seen feedback that you have too much detail about your methods. However, as an editor, which is one of my roles, every day when I look at reviewer comments, I see critique about the detail of research methods. We need a little bit more here. We need to really understand what you have done. We need to understand in a way that we could possibly take what you've done and then apply it to a new setting and use those methods ourselves. And I think that's the burden that we should really strive for when writing about research methods. And I think it's particularly challenging for mixed methods research because it is a bit more complicated. It's harder for people to grasp. I can talk about having a qualitative component and a quantitative component, but then how you bring those together, how you integrate them, that's a little bit more elusive and more difficult to explain. So as a call to everyone, I would just think about anyone who's interested in developing standards, good standards, please do so. The field needs it. There are several who are working on it, but then also really think about detail for your methods. I think it is one way to move the needle maybe slightly towards some of the mistrust we have over science.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And so now I give the word to Emmanuel Remy Ayede, who I think you will give us also some perspective, also from some policy-oriented research and also in your field. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. As you said, engage more with the policy sciences and as they occur within Africa. So my discussion will begin with looking at even the idea of mistrust of science, and to say that the concern about popular distrust of science has accelerated in the public sphere, and then has been made worse by the COVID-19 experience. But of course, it has caused many scholars to begin to engage the notion of mistrust in science, and a series of surveys have been conducted. The latest one covered 68 countries with several thousands of respondents. And the idea is really to see how this situation is occurring across the globe. And for the first time, African countries were listed among the countries that were surveyed, among the 68 countries, including Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, and a few others. The report from that study suggests that even though there's some form of mistrust of science, it seems relatively people still trust science than many other professions or other sources of information. And so the question is, what is then the nature of the mistrust of science that exists now? What specifically, for instance, or how would we define mistrust of science and research? And in what ways is this manifested? What I try to do is to not engage the global debate, but to address it from an African perspective. And to say that the question of mistrust of science can be looked at from three perspectives. The first has to do with the scientific community and citizens of the various countries, what they think science and research is good for, and whether they can completely rely on what scientists tell them. Within the African context, we can look at different dimensions of this issue. The first has to do with how research is conducted, especially given the fact that within the African continent, research is often driven by government or non-governmental organizations, including researchers from the North. And the population often think about researchers coming to the field, going away and returning again, and asking the question, what have we benefited from such studies? The second one has, of course, in relating to African governments, they look at their performance as a basis of, assessing whether they should trust research sponsored by African governments as well. The second challenge here is also that within the African continent, we talk about populism in the North as a major source of mistrust of science. But in Africa, we also talk about the rise of religion, the emergence of fundamentalism that sometimes resist scientific results as a major source of mistrust. The second point is how the scientific community relates with the policy community within the African continent. The idea is, which is what raised the policy science movement in the first place, that if people believe in scientific evidence, then they are likely to use it for decision making and for policy making. So if they don't believe in it, then there's likely to be that continuous disconnect between the producers of knowledge and the policy community. And this has been raised in the context of a movement within the African continent that there should be evidence-informed policy making. And this movement has gained traction within the continent. But because for over 2 or 3 decades ago, under the neoliberal policies, the whole idea of developing evidence was relegated to the background. We have many think tanks at independence. Many of them became ineffective during those periods because of the rolling back of the state and the squeezing of funds to those sectors of society. Now there's a revival of that, of the need for evidence within the policymaking, which I think is also part of what accounts for the relative confidence from those surveys that Africans still trust science to a very significant extent. The third part has to do with the debate within the scientific community itself. And this has to do with science within the African continent, and then, of course, the relation and interaction between the science that's done in Africa, and then, of course, scientists from the North who do work in Africa. Traditionally, of course, scientific research is best when it is subject to peer review, when controversies are trashed out and the debate is robust. So in the first instance, that is supposed to be normal and is supposed to promote the integrity of research and scientific activity. But we have a history of relating with science, which dates back to colonialism. And so that history does not promote confidence in the kind of science that about African society and African communities that we have received in the past. And so there's always this question of how do we then take contemporary scientists who come from the North to do research in Africa. And they will talk about decolonization and decolonial studies. Because the idea is really that the relationship between science coming from the North and science in the South embodies unequal power relations, both in determining issues that have considered important and issues and how those issues are also addressed. And so there's always this question about the intention of scientists when they come to Africa. And you can see resistance even to vaccines and all of that as a result of practical experiences, and some of which we have also experienced in Nigeria, and they have raised all kinds of controversies. And so the question of power relations addresses a number of things. One, that if science and research is done with all the requirements of integrity, then we stand a better chance of having more confidence and trust within the scientific process. It is not just about North and South. It's also about the capacity within Africa, to generate knowledge and to have a voice within the global scientific community. I'm sure if you just Google, you see the percentage of Africa's contribution to knowledge. But even more important is really that those who fund research set priorities. And most of the time, these priorities are not African priorities. They are not set by Africans. And so you'll find that the dominant orientations, whether in terms of models, in terms of values, are often not in tune with Africans and African communities. And then the other part is the kind of partnership that exists between researchers in the North and the researchers in the South. This partnership often reflects the power relations that I've talked about before. And so you have a situation where the nature of such partnership will have to be revisited. And as part of the concern about this, the African Union actually developed a strategy to promote innovation and scientific research within the continent. And this intervention is actually part of the larger vision, what we call Vision 2063, about the Africa we want. And the idea is that if Africa has to have a voice and to determine its future, then it has to promote research and development. And African government must also invest more and research within the continent, so that we can properly engage the research process with a strong voice, representing the African perspective of some of these issues. I think the bottom line is really this, that just like other societies across the globe, in the South, there's still a strong trust for science. But of course, there are some of these challenges that stand in the way of advancing that trust. And in order to be able to do this, a number of things have to be rethought regarding, first, the insistence on high standard of integrity in research and scientific activities, be they being done in the North or being done in the South. And the other one is really that in terms of setting priorities, it's a little bit tricky, but we have to build positive partnerships that do not crowd out the voice of researchers from the South. And that's decolonizing knowledge itself must be taken very seriously. If you look at the feminist movement, the whole idea of neutrality of science or the objectivity of science, which has to be interrogated, is something very vital to this process of decolonization. And increasingly, of course, given the nature of global problems, whether it's climate change, whether it's pandemic, there's need for more partnership, because we also saw when the vaccine started rolling out, where the products were coming from, and now the products were also distributed. So these are lessons that we have learned from these previous experiences, and they provide the background for looking at methods. Now, with regard to methods, we know that there are multiplicity of methods, and they have implications for what the output from research. And we think that method pluralism should be promoted, and that a consciousness of the ideologies that underline some of these methods have to be interrogated so that we can properly neutralize the power relations within the scientific community. And hopefully we'll be able to build more mutually rewarding and reinforcing partnerships that put the human being and his dignity and health at the center of all research activities, whether these human beings are from the North or from the South. Thank you very much.
So as a last intervention, we give the word to Dr. Boda Tavora from the University of Munster, and I think you're going to bring perspective from communication research in particular, right? Yes.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. What a challenge to talk after these two colleagues. Well, in my presentation, I would like to bring some perspective about communication studies and also participatory methods, which are my background. So let's go. So I would like to interrogate and reflect a little bit about science disinformation, not starting right now, and this mistrust, and also conclude with how communication and participatory methods also bring some perspectives to think about the mistrust in science. So as a participatory researcher, I would start with participation. And so, yeah, what we are looking at these pictures, what do we see in common here? Maybe here. Someone?
War, conflict.
Conflict, war. What? Research, what else? Threats. Yeah, they are science, right? They are all produced by scientific knowledge. So this issue that the history of science suggests that the scientific findings, evidence, and all of this are not really done equally. And so we are talking about wars, we are talking about chemical weapons, we are talking about vaccinations. And so we are talking about these different results on science that it's kind of, it's not like difficult to question the integrity of science when we see that science was used to many different strategies and objectives. And just bringing some examples of this, there are these two main turning points when we think about science and trust in science. And I bring this reflection from Naomi Oreskes. She's a historian of science from the US. And she has done a very big research about the role of tobacco and the oil industry in mobilizing a very big number of scientists to assure that their business were not giving some troubles to the population. And she addresses this issue that the main goal of these industries was to suspend the notion of truth and collecting and connecting a lot of different scientists to build confusion related science. And she brings two she shows that these scientists use it main two things. So they approached issues and results as possible theories and not established facts or evidence. So the very much well known for us is the climate change issue. Is it a human-based thing? It's anthropogenic or no? The world has always been warm. So this other thing that she brings that scientists connected to ExxonMobil, to the tobacco industry, they would pose things specifically related to the method. So they would ask questions about causative links between their industry and also their consequences. So yeah, the tobacco industry would question if Cancerland is connected to tobacco use. So Oreskes brings this idea that on the top of an already existing issue, which is the ivory tower science, and so this existing problem already, this other one from this industry kind of overlap this trouble related to trust in science. So this one is super interesting, right? Like they hear a lot using doctors to say that more doctors smoke Camel than any other cigarette. So then we have this very turning point related to the pandemics and the 2016 elections. On the disinformation studies, this also marks a shift point. That's like the very first time that the world has seen the possibilities of the big techs and digital platforms, and a lot of science denialism again coming together with it. Another turning point, the COVID-19 pandemics also brought this one more layer on our already existing issue related to the scientific denialism. Okay. And so at this point, there was a lot of discussion. Everyone has, I'm sure, an example to share of someone in your family who is super well educated, or someone who has always gone to the doctor and for different reasons just didn't get vaccinated. So it came to put another layer on our trust in science, and the World Health Organization, for example, named it as infodemic, what would be like this overlapping context of information, but also diseases that put all the thing more complex. And more recently, the 2024 elections, that we can see this very representative picture of the big tech companies supporting the specific governments. And we all also know what happens related to science. And finally, this scenario brings a perspective of Neuberg and colleagues would call as the epistemic crisis situation, where there is like this idea that truth cannot be known, And so like informally, people would say that the epistemological thing would turn into a I epistemological. So the I in the word epistemology to refer to this idea that personal experiences or my very group experiences would then explain what happens in the world, and the truth cannot be known because there are so many realities that you cannot just refer to this kind of truth. And in the micro level, like individual level, it has also, Nelber and colleagues would say that it brings and fosters a lot of increase of uncertainty, that rise of strong emotions, fears and hate, and all the hate speech and atmosphere. And so one more connection with our topic. And finally, the epistemic crisis bring this perspective that these three gatekeepers of scientific or information knowledge, which would be journalists, doctors, and scientists, those three people in society got discredited. So this idea that those that were the epistemological leaderships that we could rely on, they are the very well who are being attacked. So we have this scenario here, a very much historical overlapping crisis of mistrust in science. And then we have a challenge, right? Many challenges, I would say. I will bring just this communicative and participatory thing, which would be that beyond the scientific community, I mean, that's super inspiring to listen to the mixed method because it's kind of, you have a feeling that you need to go further when you look at data and so on. But then I would ask, which methods matter to the general audiences? I mean, we know the methods that matters for the scientific audience, transparency, reproducibility, and accuracy, and so on. And then if we are talking about people, and if we make science for society, we should also ask what methods matter for general audiences, right? And this is a very binary image, but just for you to grasp who we are talking to when we talk about talking to the community. And so I would bring some reference and inspiration from science communication. I would assume that many of you are already doing it, or your university are pressuring you to do it because it became such a topic after the pandemics. And so I bring some inspirations for us. And I would divide my next talk into potential ways that science communication is reflecting about the mistrust in science, given some specific points. So I think the first thing to think about how we can communicate with audience is not thinking that the researcher himself, now he has to put one more layer and be a scientific communicator, because it's not like easy, or it's not like a talent for everyone. So the first thing is, and I talk to people here who maybe it's on the like high topics on your institutions, science communication should be strategically designed as a method that requires time, plan, and funding. Of course, that you cannot imagine that you just put up one more step on your scientific plan and it's not being funded or planned or time consuming how it is. And the other one thing is that the interaction with population research, it's another topic that science communication address. So regarding the interaction with population, this idea that the different levels should employ different methods and strategies. So avoiding what, we could say like extractive consultation and allowing like meaningful dialogue. Melt Cafe and colleagues, they have evidence that that when this kind of interaction between like you were doing with participants, or you were recording a video, or you were like mobilizing people to work on your research, some step and some attention should be done related to interaction with these participants. So mutual respect and overcoming these limitations of the traditional ivory tower. And also this idea that individuals who receive feedback from experiments they participated Druckmann and colleagues as well has said that individuals who receive feedback from experiments they participated are more likely to share positive messages about science. So it acknowledges contributions, strength trust, and amplify networks of communication. So a second to you to check this cartoon. Yeah, Zoom. Okay. Zoom the music. Oh yeah, sure. So, and yeah. So just to give some points related to the science con, some ideas that they bring is like common sense on your field. So try to bring this perspective. What would be the common sense of your field? Then you can create some strategies related to it, and also consider different formats. Of course, that we rank when we have papers. I haven't seen a funding application who asks how much time you went to school to give a talk, or how many consultations you have give to the local museum to share your findings. But I think that we should acknowledge, and from the next steps, funding and institutions should acknowledge how much scientists could put in society. Otherwise, if we don't make space for money, time, and planning, we won't talk to communities. So I'm not saying that we should be Carl Sagan, and I would like to bring this reference. If you don't know it, I totally recommend to Google it, because he is considered one of the first scientific communicators. He has this TV show talking about cosmos, and it's very much reference for science communication. So yeah, it's not like being someone who is doing the science communication, but invite you to put this in your next funding, talk to your institution, check there if there are some potential communication strategies to develop, because I think that would be the next step when we think about methods about science communication. And that's it. Thank you.